The conference room smelled like leather and ambition. Marcus Chen stood at the head of the table, his laptop connected to the massive screen behind him. Lines of code scrolled across the display, elegant, revolutionary, perfect. He'd rehearsed this pitch 17 times. This was number 18. Derek Haynes, CEO of VaultCore Technologies, leaned back in his chair. His royal blue tie was loose at the collar. The gesture seemed casual, but his eyes were calculating. "Walk me through this again," he said. Slowly. Marcus's jaw tightened. He'd already explained it twice. The algorithm creates a self-healing encryption layer. When blockchain vulnerabilities are detected, the code automatically. Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And you developed this where?" "MIT, Stanford. I'm self-taught." Marcus kept his voice steady. "The methodology is sound." "The testing shows self-taught." Derek glanced at his CTO, who smirked. "That's the unorthodox." The room shifted. Marcus felt it like a temperature drop. He continued anyway, clicking to the next slide. Performance metrics, comparison charts. His code outperformed every existing solution by 40%. The numbers didn't lie. Derek interrupted again. "Where did you really learn this approach?" The emphasis landed like a slap. Marcus's hand hovered over the keyboard. "I developed it myself. Over 3 years. The documentation is..." "We need proven talent," Derek said, standing. "Not experiments. Sarah, please escort Mr. Chen out." The room went silent. Marcus's presentation had 12 slides left. His mouth opened, but no words came. He'd shown them the future, and they'd called it an experiment. Derek picked up the USB drive from the table. He turned it over in his fingers like a coin. Then he dropped it into his desk drawer. The sound echoed. Marcus gathered his laptop with shaking hands. The security guard waited by the door. As he walked out, he heard Derek laugh, low and dismissive. The conference room door clicked shut behind him. It sounded exactly like a cell locking. Marcus Chen woke every morning at 5:30. Not because he wanted to, but because the coffee shop opened at 6 and the corner table by the window was his office. His apartment in Oakland was too small, too quiet, too full of rejection letters. But the coffee shop had Wi-Fi and strangers who didn't ask questions. He was 28 and looked older. Exhaustion did that. 3 years of 18-hour coding sessions had carved shadows under his eyes. His emerald green hoodie was fraying at the cuffs. He wore it anyway. It was lucky. Or it used to be. His laptop was a battlefield. Sticky notes covered the edges in layers. Reminders, code snippets, motivational quotes he'd written to himself at 3 in the morning. The largest one in the center said, "Trust the logic. Trust yourself." The handwriting was his grandmother's. She died 6 months ago. The note remained. Marcus's algorithm was revolutionary. He knew this the way he knew his own heartbeat. It solved blockchain vulnerability that had plagued the industry since cryptocurrency's inception. Self-healing encryption. Adaptive defense protocols. He'd tested it against every known attack vector. It held. Every single time, 17 companies had rejected him. 17 polite emails explaining they were pursuing other candidates or moving in a different direction. The words changed. The message didn't. Not interested. VaultCore was supposed to be different. Derek Haynes had built his empire on innovation. He'd given TED Talks about disrupting the old guard, hiring unconventional talent, seeing potential where others saw risk. Marcus had watched every interview. He'd believed every word. He'd been wrong. Now he sat in his car outside VaultCore's headquarters, gripping the steering wheel. His laptop was open on the passenger seat. The code glowed on the screen, thousands of lines of perfect logic. He'd named the file legacy.cpp after Mr. Okafor. His phone buzzed. A text from his roommate. "Rent's due Friday." "You good?" Marcus stared at the message. He had $200 in his checking account. He wasn't good. He wasn't anything. He closed the laptop and drove home in silence. The pitch had started well. Derek's assistant had offered coffee. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking San Francisco. Marcus had felt something dangerous, hope. He'd opened with the problem. Current blockchain encryption has a critical flaw. When attacks probe for vulnerabilities, the system can't adapt in real time. By the time developers patch the weakness, it's too late. He clicked to the next slide. My algorithm changes that. Derek had leaned forward. Show me. Marcus walked them through the architecture. His code created a living defense system. It learned. It evolved. When one encryption layer was compromised, the algorithm automatically generated new patterns. The attacker would be chasing a target that no longer existed. It's like fighting a ghost, Marcus said. The vulnerabilities heal themselves. Derek's CTO, a man named Greg with a mustard yellow pocket square, raised his hand. This is theoretical, right? You haven't actually implemented it. I've run it against every major attack simulation. The success rate is 98%. Marcus clicked to the data. These aren't projections. These are results. Greg exchanged a look with Derek. Something passed between them, a language Marcus couldn't read. Walk me through your background, Derek said. MIT, Stanford. I'm self-taught. Marcus kept his chin up. I learned to code when I was 13. I've been developing this algorithm for 3 years. Self-taught. Derek repeated it like a diagnosis. And you developed this? Where? In a garage? In libraries? Coffee shops? Wherever I could find Wi-Fi. Marcus felt the room shift. The air grew heavier. The environment doesn't change the logic. The code works. The code. Derek smiled, but his eyes remained cold. And where did you learn this particular approach? It's very sophisticated for someone without formal training. The question hung in the air. Marcus understood what wasn't being said. I developed it myself, he said quietly. Based on encryption theories and theories, Greg laughed. From where? Marcus's hands tightened on his laptop. From years of study. From mentorship, from understanding that patterns exist everywhere if you know how to see them. Derek stood. The meeting was over. Marcus could feel it ending like a door closing. Mr. Chen, we appreciate your time, but VaultCore needs proven talent. We can't take risks on experiments. The word landed like a punch. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, to show them the remaining slides, to make them understand. But Derek had already turned to his assistant. Sarah, please escort Mr. Chen out. The security guard appeared in the doorway. Marcus gathered his belongings with trembling hands. His presentation was half finished. His future was disappearing. As he walked toward the exit, he heard Greg whisper something to Derek. They both laughed. Marcus didn't look back. He couldn't. If he did, they'd see his face. They'd see that they'd won. The elevator doors closed. Marcus was alone. He pressed his forehead against the cool metal wall and counted to 10. Then he counted again. Marcus sat in his car for 20 minutes before starting the engine. His hands were still shaking. He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles ached, trying to force stillness into his body. It didn't work. The rejection played on a loop in his mind. Not the words, he'd heard rejection before. This was different. This was the pauses, the glances, the way Derek had said self-taught, like it was a disease. The way Greg had questioned where Marcus had really learned to code, as if brilliance required a pedigree. His phone buzzed. A calendar reminder, Grandma's birthday. She would have been 73. She would have told him to stand tall, to remember who he was. She would have made her terrible coffee and quoted Maya Angelou until Marcus smiled despite himself. She wasn't here. He was alone with his code and his fury. Marcus opened his laptop. The presentation file was still open, frozen on slide 7 of 19. He'd prepared for an hour. They'd given him 12 minutes. He scrolled through the remaining slides, implementation strategies, cost analyses, scaling projections. All of it brilliant. All of it ignored. His grandmother's sticky note caught his eye. Trust the logic. Trust yourself, he wanted to. God, he wanted to. But trust required evidence, and the evidence was clear. 17 rejections, 18 now. The world kept telling him the same story. You don't belong here. But the code was perfect. He knew it the way he knew his own name. The algorithm worked. The tests proved it. Logic didn't care about degrees or pedigrees or the color of his skin. Logic was clean, pure, unbiased. People weren't. Marcus closed his eyes. He remembered Mr. Okafor's voice from a decade ago. Code doesn't lie, Marcus, people do. When the world tries to convince you that your truth is false, run the tests again. The numbers will tell you who's right. He'd run the tests hundreds of times. The numbers never lied. Marcus saved the file and shut his laptop. He started the car. The radio played something forgettable. He drove home in silence, watching the city blur past his window. Somewhere in that blur, Derek Haynes was celebrating. Somewhere in Voltcor's fortress of glass and steel, Marcus's code sat in a drawer like garbage. But garbage didn't solve problems. Garbage didn't revolutionize industries. Marcus pulled into his parking spot and sat in the darkness. His phone buzzed again. Another text from his roommate. Seriously, man. Rent? He stared at the message. Then he typed, I'll figure it out. He always did. Marcus learned to code on a Tuesday. He was 13 years old, and the library computer had 45 minutes left on his session. He'd been researching video game design, childhood dreams of building worlds from nothing. A man at the next computer noticed Marcus staring at a programming tutorial. You interested in code? The man asked. His accent was thick, Nigerian, warm. Marcus shrugged. Maybe, I don't really get it. Most people don't, the man smiled. I'm Chidi Okafor. I'm a software engineer. You want to learn? That Tuesday became every Tuesday. Mr. Okafor taught Marcus everything. Python, JavaScript, C++, the architecture of thought translated into syntax. Code is problem-solving, he'd say. You break down the impossible into small possible pieces. Then you solve each piece. One line at a time. Marcus was a natural. He saw patterns others missed. He understood logic like a first language. By 15, he was debugging Mr. Okafor's work projects. By 17, he was building his own programs. Mr. Okafor never asked about Marcus's home life. He didn't need to. He understood what it meant to be brilliant in a world that questioned your brilliance. He'd left Nigeria with a doctorate and worked twice as hard for half the recognition. They'll doubt you, he told Marcus once. Not because you're wrong, because they're afraid. Afraid of what? That you're better than them. When Marcus turned 20, Mr. Okafor was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He died 4 months later. At the funeral, his wife handed Marcus a leather notebook. He wanted you to have this. He said you'd understand it. The notebook was filled with encryption theories, decades of research, algorithms that didn't exist yet. Margin notes in Mr. Okafor's cramped handwriting. This could work. Test against quantum attacks. Build adaptive protocols. Marcus had spent the next 3 years building those protocols. The algorithm wasn't just his. It was their shared legacy. Every line of code was a conversation with a dead man. Every function was proof that Mr. Okafor's brilliance hadn't died with him. Losing this algorithm meant losing him again. Marcus kept the notebook in his messenger bag. He carried it everywhere, a talisman, a reminder, a responsibility. Sometimes he'd open it at random and read Mr. Okafor's notes. The handwriting was messy, but the logic was flawless. On the inside cover, Mr. Okafor had written a quote from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Marcus traced the words with his finger. He'd faced rejection 18 times. He'd faced doubt, dismissal, doors closing before he could speak. But he hadn't faced the truth yet. The world didn't want his brilliance. It wanted him to disappear. He closed the notebook. His grandmother's sticky note was tucked inside the front page. 2 pieces of wisdom from 2 dead mentors. He was carrying their voices into a fight they'd never see him win, but he'd win anyway. because logic didn't die. Truth didn't fade, and Marcus Chen didn't quit. Marcus couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning, he sat at his kitchen table with his laptop and a cold cup of coffee. His roommate's bedroom door was closed. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and Marcus's racing thoughts. He opened the recording app on his phone. He'd recorded the meeting, just audio, nothing visual. It was legal in California. He'd checked. He pressed play. His own voice came through first, nervous but confident. Then Derek's interruptions, Greg's smirking questions. The way they'd talked over him, dismissed him, questioned where he'd really learned to code. Listening to it again felt like swallowing glass. But then he heard something new. At minute 8, while Marcus was explaining the self-healing protocols, there was a faint click. He rewound, played it again. There, a camera shutter sound. Someone had taken a photo. Marcus's pulse quickened. He pulled up VaultCore's website and navigated to their team page. Greg Morrison, Chief Technology Officer. Marcus found his LinkedIn profile. 3 hours ago, Greg had posted, "Exciting developments in progress at VaultCore. Innovation never sleeps." Marcus stared at the post. The timestamp was right after the meeting. He opened a private browser and navigated to VaultCore's public GitHub repository. Nothing unusual. Standard corporate projects, carefully curated. But GitHub had a feature most people forgot about: followers. Marcus checked who was watching VaultCore's repos. One account, created that afternoon, had started following every VaultCore repository. The username was generic, Dev Archive 2024. The profile was blank. No contributions. No history. Marcus's hands hovered over the keyboard. His instincts screamed at him. This was preparation. They were getting ready to upload something. Something they wanted to hide. He made a decision. Marcus logged into his own GitHub account and created a new repository. He named it Adaptive Blockchain Encryption. He uploaded his entire algorithm, every line, every comment, every test result. Then he added a README file with a single sentence. For those who see beyond the surface. He set the repository to public and clicked the timestamp feature. The blockchain on GitHub servers would prove when he'd uploaded this. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. 2:43 in the morning on November 2nd. His finger hovered over the commit button. Once he pressed it, the code was out in the world. Anyone could see it. Use it, steal it. But it would also be timestamped. Immutable proof. Marcus thought of Mr. Okafor. Code doesn't lie, Marcus. People do. He pressed commit. The upload took 11 seconds. When it finished, Marcus's algorithm sat in the digital commons. Open source, free, undeniable. He took a screenshot of the repository with the timestamp visible. Then he backed up the entire thing to 3 different cloud services. He saved the meeting recording. He downloaded Greg's LinkedIn post. He archived everything he could think of. At 3 in the morning, Marcus finally closed his laptop. His hands had stopped shaking. His exhaustion had been replaced by something colder. Something sharper. Derek Haynes thought he'd dismissed an experiment, but experiments were reproducible. Experiments left evidence. Marcus had just created a paper trail that couldn't be erased. He went to bed and slept for 4 hours. When he woke, his repository had been forked twice. Developers he'd never met were already reading his code. The truth was loose in the world now. Patient, waiting. Marcus showered and made coffee. His roommate was already gone. The apartment was quiet. He opened his laptop and checked the repository again. 7 forks now. And climbing. He smiled for the first time in days. 3 months passed like a slow burn. Marcus took a job at a tech startup in Berkeley. Back-end development, decent pay, nothing revolutionary. He coded during the day and watched his GitHub repository at night. The forks had climbed to 200, then 500. Developers across 3 continents were using his algorithm. No one knew it was his. The username was generic. The README was cryptic. But the code spoke for itself. Then Vaultcore made an announcement. Marcus was drinking coffee at his desk when the notification popped up. Vaultcore Technologies unveils revolutionary blockchain security protocol. The article had been published 6 minutes ago. He clicked the link with trembling hands. Derek Haynes stood at a podium in front of a massive screen. Behind him, code scrolled across the display. Marcus recognized every line. The variable names had been changed. The comments had been stripped out. But the architecture was identical. His algorithm, his 3 years of work, his legacy with Mr. Okafor, rebranded as Vault Shield. Derek's voice came through the video. We've developed a breakthrough in adaptive encryption. Our team has created a self-healing security layer that responds to threats in real time. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a revolution. Marcus's coffee cup shook in his hand. He set it down before he dropped it. The video continued. Derek explained the methodology, Marcus's methodology, with the confidence of ownership. Greg stood beside him, nodding along like a proud father. The comments section exploded with praise. Vaultcore does it again. This changes everything. Industry-leading innovation. Marcus's vision blurred. He refreshed his GitHub repository. The timestamp was still there. November 2nd, 2:43 in the morning. 3 months before Vaultcore's announcement, he took screenshots of everything. The announcement, the video, the timestamp. Then he opened his contacts and scrolled to the name he'd been saving. Elena Rodriguez, senior tech reporter at TechCrunch. They'd met at a conference 2 years ago. She'd given him her card. Marcus drafted an email. He attached the screenshots, the repository link, the meeting recording. His hands shook as he typed, "I have evidence that Vaultcore stole my code." He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Elena replied in 40 minutes. "This is a serious accusation. Do you have corporate backing? Legal representation?" Marcus stared at the message. He typed, "I have the truth." Her response came faster this time. "That's not enough. Without institutional support, this looks like sour grapes." "I'm sorry." Marcus closed his laptop. He sat in the office break room with his cold coffee and watched Vaultcore's stock price climb on his phone. Derek was doing interviews. CNBC, Bloomberg, Forbes. The world was celebrating a theft, and Marcus was invisible again. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number saw Vaultcore's announcement. "That's your code, isn't it?" Marcus's pulse spiked. He typed, "Who is this?" "Someone who was in that conference room. I'm sorry about what happened." Marcus called the number. It rang twice. A woman's voice answered. "Don't say my name. I still work there. Why are you contacting me?" "Because what they did was wrong." She paused. "I took notes during your presentation. I still have them. The dates, the details, everything." Hope flared in Marcus's chest. "Will you go on record?" The silence stretched. "Then I can't. I'd lose my job. My visa depends on this job." "I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know someone believes you." The line went dead. Marcus sat alone in the break room. Outside the window, San Francisco glittered with possibility. None of it was for him. 2 weeks later, an email arrived in Marcus's inbox. The subject line read, "Speaking Invitation, CypherCon 2025. Marcus opened it with suspicion. CypherCon was the largest cybersecurity conference on the West Coast. 10,000 attendees. Every major company sent representatives. He read the email twice to make sure it was real. "Dear Marcus Chen, we came across your open-source repository, Adaptive Blockchain Encryption, and were impressed by the innovative approach. We would like to invite you to present at CypherCon 2025. Your work represents exactly the kind of forward-thinking security solutions our community needs." Marcus's hands trembled. He checked the sender. Legitimate. He Googled the conference director's name. Real person. Real position. His repository had been noticed. Not by corporations. by the people who actually wrote code. He accepted the invitation within an hour. The conference was 6 weeks away. He had 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to decide if he was brave enough to tell the truth in front of the industry that had rejected him. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining the presentation. Would anyone believe him? Would they care? Vaultcore had money, lawyers, influence. Marcus had screenshots and a GitHub timestamp. His phone buzzed at 2 in the morning. Another message from an unknown number. Don't speak at CypherCon. You'll regret it. Marcus sat up. His heart hammered against his ribs. He typed, "Who is this?" No response. He checked the number. Burner phone, untraceable. The message disappeared from his screen, self-destructing. He took a screenshot before it vanished completely. Marcus got out of bed and opened his laptop. He backed up everything again. Repository, recordings, screenshots, notes. He sent copies to 3 different email addresses. He printed hard copies and stored them at his mother's house. If they wanted to bury him, he'd make sure the truth went down fighting. The next morning, Marcus submitted his presentation title to CypherCon. Code Doesn't Lie, a case study in blockchain security innovation. Vague enough to get approved, specific enough to detonate. He received confirmation that afternoon. He was scheduled for the main stage. Friday at 2 p.m., prime speaking slot. Marcus opened Mr. Okafor's notebook and read the James Baldwin quote again. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. He'd spent 3 months being invisible. 6 weeks from now he'd be impossible to ignore. His phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Last warning. Drop it. Marcus deleted the message and blocked the number. Then he opened his presentation file and got to work. 4 weeks before CypherCon, Marcus's world collapsed. His manager called him into a conference room. Her expression was apologetic. "We're restructuring. Your position has been eliminated." Marcus sat in stunned silence. "I've exceeded every performance metric. I know. This isn't about performance. It's about budget. I'm sorry." He packed his desk in a cardboard box. His co-workers avoided eye contact. Only one person spoke to him, Sarah from DevOps. She handed him a sticky note with a website URL. "Check this," she whispered. Marcus went home and opened his laptop. The URL led to an industry forum. The thread was titled, "Be careful who you hire." Someone had posted Marcus's name with a warning, "Difficult to work with. Makes unfounded accusations against established companies." Avoid at the post had 17 upvotes. 3 companies Marcus had applied to were active in that forum. He'd been blacklisted. Marcus closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of his apartment. His roommate had moved out last week. Couldn't wait for Marcus to find steady income. The rent was due in 6 days. His bank account showed $300. His phone stayed silent. No job offers, no callbacks, no allies. He walked to the kitchen and made instant ramen because it was all he had left. The apartment was too quiet, too empty. He ate standing at the counter, tasting nothing. His grandmother's photo watched him from the living room shelf. He picked it up. She was smiling, that knowing smile that said she could see through walls and time. "You told me to stand tall," he whispered to the photo. "But I'm running out of floor to stand on." Mr. Okafor's notebook sat on the coffee table. Marcus opened it randomly. A page from 2019. A note in the margin. "The truth is patient. It waits for the brave." Marcus traced the words with his finger. Patient, brave. He felt neither. He felt tired, broke, alone. He thought about withdrawing from CypherCon, deleting his repository, disappearing. The world had made its message clear, shut up and go away. But then he remembered Derek's laugh, Greg's smirk, the way they'd stolen 3 years of his life and called it innovation. Marcus closed the notebook. He picked up his phone and opened the CypherCon app. His presentation was still scheduled. Friday, 2 p.m. main stage. He had 6 days to figure out how to pay rent. He had 4 weeks to figure out how to survive. But he had his voice, and he had the truth. That would have to be enough. Marcus spent 3 days applying to jobs and getting automated rejections. On the 4th day, he stopped trying. He had $37 in his bank account and a presentation to finish. He opened his GitHub repository. The forks had climbed to 800. He clicked through them randomly, watching developers integrate his code into their projects. One company in Singapore had built an entire security platform around it. A startup in Berlin had cited it in a research paper. His algorithm was changing the industry. Anonymously, Marcus opened his email. Buried in the spam folder was a message from 3 weeks ago. Subject: I know what VaultCore did. He clicked it. The sender was listed as J. Morrison. The message was brief. I'm Greg's sister. I don't work in tech, but I know wrong when I see it. I was at his house when he was modifying your code. He kept complaining about cleaning up the amateur's work. I made copies. If you need them, I'll help. Marcus's heart stopped. He replied immediately, Are you serious? The response came in minutes, dead serious. He's my brother, but what he did was theft. I have screenshots from his laptop. Timestamps match your repository. I'll testify if needed. Marcus stared at the screen. An ally proof corroboration from inside VaultCore's own circle. He drafted a response carefully. Can we meet? I'm speaking at CypherCon in 4 weeks. This could change everything. Jennifer Morrison agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Oakland. She was 32, a high school teacher, and looked nothing like Greg. She slid a folder across the table. I made copies of everything, dates, file modifications. Even his notes where he admits the base code came from that kid's pitch. Marcus opened the folder. His hands shook. Screenshots, chat logs. Evidence that couldn't be denied. Why are you doing this? Marcus asked. Because my brother is a bully. Jennifer's voice was steel. And because I teach my students that integrity matters. I can't preach that, and then watch him steal someone's work. Marcus spent the next 2 weeks building his presentation around the evidence. He created a timeline. He documented every connection. He prepared for questions, accusations, legal threats. His rent was 2 weeks overdue. His landlord had left 3 voicemails. Marcus ignored them all. He'd deal with eviction later. Right now he had a case to build. The night before CypherCon, Marcus reviewed his slides one final time. The presentation was devastating, undeniable. Career-ending for Derek and Greg, and possibly for Marcus too. His phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. I'll be in the front row. You've got this. Marcus looked at his grandmother's photo, then at Mr. Okafor's notebook, then at his reflection in the laptop screen. He'd been invisible for 3 months. Tomorrow he'd be impossible to forget. The conference hall held 3,000 people. Marcus stood backstage, watching the previous speaker wrap up. His hands were sweating. His heart was a drum. Jennifer Morrison sat front row left side. She gave him a small nod. The moderator introduced him. Please welcome Marcus Chen, independent developer and creator of the adaptive blockchain encryption repository. Marcus walked onto the stage. The lights were blinding. He clicked to his first slide. A simple title, Code Doesn't Lie, a case study in innovation and theft. The room shifted. Phones appeared. People leaned forward. 3 months ago, Marcus began, I pitched a revolutionary encryption algorithm to VaultCore Technologies. I was rejected in 12 minutes. He clicked to the next slide. 2 weeks ago, VaultCore announced that same algorithm as their own breakthrough. This is the story of what happened in between. He showed the timeline. His repository upload November 2nd. VaultCore's announcement February 8th. 3 months later. Here's my original code. He displayed his GitHub page, the timestamp clear. And here's VaultCore's announcement. The video played. Derek's voice filling the hall. Notice anything familiar? Marcus showed the code side by side. His version, Vault Core's version, identical architecture. Renamed variables, stripped comments, but unmistakably the same. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Marcus saw Greg Morrison in the third row. His face had gone pale. Some of you might think this is coincidence. Marcus clicked again. So let me show you the meeting recording. The audio played. His pitch. Derek's dismissal. Greg's condescending questions. The phrase self-taught dripped with disdain. The room went silent. Then came the camera shutter sound. Marcus paused the recording. That click? Someone photographed my code during the presentation. Want to guess who? He displayed Jennifer's screenshot. Greg's laptop, Marcus's code clearly visible, the file timestamp matching the meeting date. The crowd erupted. Gasps, whispers, phones recording. Greg stood up. This is defamation. I'll have my lawyers. Your sister already gave a statement. Marcus's voice cut through the noise. Along with your chat logs where you refer to my work as that kid's pitch. Should I read those next? Greg sat down. His face was crimson. Marcus continued. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because code doesn't lie. People do. Every developer in this room has poured their soul into their work. You've built things that matter, and you deserve to know that truth still means something. He clicked to his final slide. Mr. Okafor's quote filled the screen. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. I'm facing this today, not because I want to destroy Vault Core, but because brilliant work shouldn't disappear because of where it came from, or who created it, or what they look like. Marcus's voice steadied. My algorithm is open source. It's free. It's already changing the industry. And no one can steal what's given freely. The room exploded in applause. Standing ovation. 3,000 people on their feet. Marcus walked off the stage. His legs were shaking. Jennifer was waiting backstage. She hugged him. Oh, you did it. His phone started buzzing. Email notifications, LinkedIn messages, interview requests. But Marcus ignored them all. He sat in a quiet hallway and called his mother. I told the truth, he said when she answered. I know, baby. I watched the live stream. Your grandmother would be so proud. Marcus closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he felt like he could breathe. Vault Core's stock dropped 18% in 3 hours. By Monday morning, Derek Haynes had resigned. Greg Morrison was placed on administrative leave. The board issued a statement. We take intellectual property concerns seriously and are conducting a full investigation. Marcus's phone didn't stop ringing for a week. Job offers, partnership proposals, investment opportunities. Companies that had ignored him 6 months ago now wanted meetings. He turned most of them down. Instead, Marcus founded his own consulting firm, Okafor Solutions. The name was deliberate, a legacy, a tribute. His first hire was Jennifer Morrison. She left teaching to run operations. His second hire was the anonymous woman who'd texted him months ago. She'd quit Vault Core and needed a fresh start. The office was small, 3 desks in Oakland, a coffee maker that actually worked, windows overlooking the bay. On the wall, Marcus hung Mr. Okafor's notebook in a shadow box. The Baldwin quote was visible through the glass. His repository hit 10,000 forks. Companies worldwide had implemented his code. Security experts called it the most significant advancement in blockchain protection in a decade. Universities taught it in coursework. Marcus never patented it. He kept it open source, free, accessible. Code belongs to everyone, he told an interviewer. Knowledge isn't property. 6 months after CypherCon, Marcus received an invitation to speak at MIT. The auditorium was packed. Students, faculty, industry leaders. He told his story, the rejection, the theft, the vindication. But mostly he talked about Mr. Okafor. He taught me that code doesn't lie, Marcus said. That truth is patient. That brilliance doesn't require permission. He paused. And he taught me that the best way to fight darkness isn't with anger. It's with light, with open doors, with giving others the chances you never got. Okafor Solutions hired exclusively from unconventional backgrounds, self-taught developers, career changers, people the industry had overlooked. Marcus reviewed portfolios, not resumes. He tested skills, not pedigrees. His grandmother's sticky note stayed on his desk. Trust the logic, trust yourself. He'd learned to do both. On the anniversary of his Vault Core rejection, Marcus visited Mr. Okafor's grave. He brought the leather, notebook, and read aloud from it, theories and algorithms and margin notes in cramped handwriting. "We did it," Marcus whispered. "They tried to bury us, but we grew anyway." The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. Somewhere in the distance a bird sang. Marcus drove back to his office and got to work. There were still problems to solve, still barriers to break, still voices waiting to be heard. He had time, he had truth, and he had code that didn't lie. That was enough. Marcus stood at his office window, watching the sun set over Oakland. His reflection merged with the skyline, both separate and part of the whole. Behind him, his team was laughing about something. The office was alive with the sound of keys clicking, ideas flowing, problems being solved. His phone buzzed. Another developer wanting to contribute to his repository, another company crediting his work. Another life changed by code that was freely given. The algorithm that Derek had dismissed now powered financial systems across continents. Not because it was finally accepted, but because truth, like good code, is immutable. It doesn't need permission. Saad doesn't bow to gatekeepers. It simply exists, elegant, efficient, undeniable. Prejudice had tried to rewrite Marcus's story, to delete him, to compile a world where his brilliance didn't exist. But you can't debug reality. You can't patch over truth with prettier lies. Marcus had encrypted his worth into every line, every function, every self-healing algorithm. Not for validation, not for revenge, but because problems demand solutions, and solutions don't care who writes them. His grandmother was right. They tried to make him small. But you can't compress what's already optimized. He didn't shrink. He didn't fade. He became the open source, accessible, transparent, transformative, and in the end, the world had no choice but to run on his terms. Marcus turned from the window. His team needed him. There were projects to launch, people to mentor, systems to protect. The work never stopped, but neither did the truth. He picked up his coffee and smiled. The code was clean, the legacy was secure, and somewhere in the infinite loop of time and progress, Mr. Okafor was smiling too. Not everything that is faced can be changed, Marcus whispered to himself, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. He'd faced it, he'd changed it, and the algorithm kept running, patient, brilliant, free, forever.